With innovative features and unusual appearance, the Saab 37 Viggen is one of aviation enthusiasts' most admired. The aircraft was designed according to the special conditions of Sweden, and it has been a symbol of the peak of European aviation for many years. Even though it was not used in real combat, the Viggen is a true legend. Now, we are investigating the Saab 37, a beautiful Swedish Thunderbolt in the sky. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel before we start, and give us a thumbs up if you like our video. To be notified of our new video, please click the bell button. Also, now you can click the join button to support our channel. The Viggen was the fruit of the conditions which Sweden faced during the First Cold War. Stuck between the NATO and the Warsaw Pact, in the coercive atmosphere of that time, this country was determined to continue its neutrality policy. So Sweden decided to trust its aviation industry to protect its airspace independently. In 1956, the Swedish Air Force began to operate the indigenous Saab 32 Lansen ground attack aircraft. The Saab 35 Draken fighter interceptor followed it in 1960. During that time, the Saab 32 already became obsolete. In 1952, the issue of the replacement of the Lansen had begun to occupy the agenda due to rapid change in the aviation industry in terms of engine and radar technologies. Stockholm knew it well that neutrality could only be sustained through a robust national defense industry. However, having a strong industry was not sufficient by itself. To secure a vast terrain with a small population, the Swedish armed forces had to be reorganized with the right doctrines. To achieve this goal, close cooperation among politicians, armed forces, and industrialists was a necessity. In this framework, the definition phase for the new doctrine and requirements of the aircraft began immediately. Sweden was an underpopulated country spread over a wide territory. The Swedish armed forces relied on the conscription system to keep the number of soldiers sufficient. So, ground service for the new aircraft called Saab 37 Viggen would be conducted by the Swedish conscript airmen after only 10 months of national service. Also, the Swedish Air Force demanded a superior fighter jet to other Western and Eastern rivals of that time. To overcome numerical disadvantage, the Viggen had to have a higher sortie rate than its predecessors. After returning from its mission, it had to be refueled and rearmed rapidly near the highways. Also, the aircraft's maintenance and repairs had to be carried out quickly and easily in field conditions. So, Swedish engineers preferred an innovative design. Thanks to this design, the ground crew would enter the munitions fitted into the aircraft's central computer using a load selector panel, which would automatically choose the correct values for fire control, fuel consumption, and other calculations. The Saab engineers had been tasked with designing an aircraft which could not only fly at low altitudes with a high subsonic speed, but also reach Mach 2 at high altitudes. At the time, the greatest handicap was that the knowledge of aerodynamics was not sufficient to develop an aircraft with such flight characteristics and short takeoff and landing performance. So, it was decided that the Viggen would have double delta wings for effectiveness at high altitudes. Yet, the low-altitude performance of this type of wings was insufficient. Swedish engineers decided to use canards to overcome this problem. Thus, the Viggen became the first serial production aircraft which has canards. The canards on the Saab 37 were very large and had flaps. They looked like a second wing on the front. This innovation worked perfectly. The low-altitude capabilities of the aircraft were superb. The canards were also useful to answer another demand of the Swedish Air Force. In a possible Third World War, all air bases would be attacked and destroyed in a short time at the very beginning. So, the new aircraft was supposed to use Sweden's wide highway network. Thanks to the canards, the Viggen had a good low-speed handling at low altitudes. This capability was also useful for short takeoff and landing. Besides, another innovative technology, the thrust reverser, was applied to the aircraft to ensure the desired short takeoff and landing criteria. The thrust reverser was providing deceleration through the temporary diversion of the engine's exhaust. So, the produced exhaust gas was being directed forward rather than backwards. The Saab 37 could be operated from 500-meter airstrips or highways. The landing gears were highly strengthened. Each leg of the landing gear held two small wheels, which were fitted with anti-skid brakes and placed in a tandem arrangement. As we mentioned, Sweden was dedicated to having an independent defense industry. But there was a side effect of this. The low amount of production caused high unit costs. To reduce costs, the Viggen was equipped with a Pratt & Whitney JT8D22 engine that powered commercial airliners of the 1960s. The jet engine design and development capabilities of Sweden were not sufficient anyway. The engine was modified with an afterburner system by the Swedish engineers under the name of RM8. This preference brought another important advantage with it. Thereby, in case of a war, the Swedish Air Force could find spare parts for the engines easily. During the study phase, the staff of the Swedish Air Force were unwilling to abandon the existing underground shelters which had been constructed for smaller aircraft. So, engineers offered a simple solution. The tail of the Viggen was designed as foldable, so the aircraft could be stored and operated from these shelters. In case of a war, Sweden had to fight against the gigantic air squadrons. But it did not have enough aircraft, so efficiency was crucial. To use its air power with high efficiency, Sweden developed the Citril 60 air defense network, which was compatible with the Saab 37s. This innovative approach was one of the first examples of network-centric warfare. The prototype of the Saab 37 performed its maiden flight on February 8, 1967. Its ground attack and fighter production model, the AJ-37, met the sky on February 23, 1971. In the same year, F-7 Sotenäs, the first operational air wing of the Viggen, was formed. The acronym AJ comes from the initials of the Swedish words attack and jakt, meaning attacker and fighter. The single-seat AJ-37 was equipped with the CK-37 Air Navigation and Attack Computer, which was the world's first airborne computer to use integrated circuits. The second version of the Viggen, the SK-37, was a two-seat trainer aircraft. It took its name from the Swedish word skol, meaning school. The aircraft performed its first flight on July 2, 1970. This variant was somewhat unusual in having two separate cockpits for pilot and instructor. Being a modified variant of the standard one-seat model, the SK-37 had radar. The instructor's stepped rear cockpit, fitted with a bulged canopy and twin lateral periscopes, replaced some electronics and a forward fuel tank. Therefore, the two-seat versions of the Viggen performed their training tasks often with additional external fuel tanks. As the third version of the Viggen, the single-seat SF-37 was developed to replace the SF-35E Draken reconnaissance aircraft. The letters S and F were the initials of the Swedish word spanning photo, which meant photo reconnaissance. The first prototype of the SF-37, which performed its first flight on May 21, 1973, was equipped with all-weather day and night cameras in the nose instead of radar. Different from other classical reconnaissance aircraft of that time, this version kept its attack capability. During the First Cold War, Sweden prepared for a possible attack from both its land border and the sea. But observing the military activity on the sea, which would be a signal for an invasion, was not easy, because NATO and the Warsaw Pact were continuously conducting large-scale exercises and routine combat training flights. So, to observe naval activity and respond to a possible attack from the Baltic Sea, Sweden also developed the single-seat SH-37, which was a maritime reconnaissance and strike version of the Viggen. The aircraft performed its first flight on December 10, 1973. The letters S and H referred to the Swedish word spanning havsövervakning, meaning maritime surveillance. Fitted with the Ericsson PS-371A surveillance and attack radar, the SH-37 was also supported by RKA-40 reconnaissance camera, which recorded radar images. The last version of the Viggen, the single-seat JA-37, was an interceptor. It was developed as the replacement for the J-35 Draken. This model performed its first flight on November 4, 1977. The aircraft was equipped with a stronger RM-8B engine, Ericsson PS-46 radar, and multifunction displays. Different from the early models, the interceptor variant was painted sky blue. Although it had a single engine, the JA-37 could climb higher than the best interceptors of the time, like the twin-engine F-14 Tomcat, and Su-27, whose NATO reporting name is Flanker. The lengths of the AJ-37, SH-37, and SK-37 were 16.3 meters. The JA-37 was 13 centimeters, and the SF-37 was 20 centimeters longer than these three models. All variants had the same wingspan, which was 10.6 meters. The JA-37 and SK-37 were 30 centimeters higher than the others, which had a height of 5.6 meters. All Viggen models had nearly the same empty weight, but their maximum takeoff weight were different. The SK-37 was the heaviest and the SF-37 was the lightest. All models could reach a speed of over Mach 2. After a modernization program, the AJ-37 and SH-37 gained the capability of carrying the RBS-15 anti-ship missiles. The JA-37 could carry 4 RB-71, that was the licensed production version of the British Skyflash air-to-air missile. Between 1993 and 1998, 35 JA-37s were equipped with the AIM-120 missiles. Yes, it was a highly agile aircraft, but the JA-37 was actually designed as a flying SAM battery. Once the target was detected, the Viggen would come out of the hiding spots from behind the trees, proceed to the highway, take off rapidly, fire its missiles, and then return. Some sources claim that a JA-37 managed to lock on a US SR-71 Blackbird flying over the Baltic Sea. This was the only time that a Mach 3 SR-71 was locked on by an aircraft. We should add that some other sources deny this incident. This highly capable aircraft could not gain success in the international market. The Saab 37 was the child of Sweden's special geographical and political conditions. No country had the same conditions. Besides, Sweden also had serious restrictions on arms sales. Therefore, many possible bids were cancelled from the onset before getting the approval of the Swedish parliament. India was highly interested in the Viggen, but the engine of the aircraft was the licensed production version of the US JT-8D-22. Because of its strained relations with India at the time, the USA blocked a possible sale. The Viggen was born in the condition of the First Cold War. The end of this period brought the end of this beautiful aircraft. After the dissolution of the USSR, Sweden reduced its armed forces. In the early 2000s, the Swedish Air Force had enough amount of the JAS-39 Gripen. So the Saab 37s were retired sooner than planned due to budget cuts. The Viggen performed its final military flight in 2006. This legendary aircraft had extraordinary appearance and features. The fact that the Viggen continues to fly with a civilian registry number provides a partial relief to its fans. Thanks for watching our video, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up if you liked our video. To be notified of our new videos, please click the bell button. Also, you can now click the join button to support our channel.